Our teacher, the Zen master Thich Hanh, explains it this way. He also, like me, likes to play with words. And one of the first things I learned from him was that the two words understanding and love are synonyms. Ty likes to say that understanding and love are two words that mean exactly the same thing. When I first heard that, same thing, I was horrified. I was like, that doesn't make any sense. It's like, I don't understand. Those words are so different. But similarly, time has helped me there. Time has helped me there. And let me explain one of the ways that I now understand that. So, when I'm dealing with somebody on a regular basis, meaning, whether they're my intimate partner, whether they're my family member, whether they're my work colleague, anybody that I have a protracted relationship with, inevitably, this is important, inevitably, I'm going to experience disappointment. They are going to take some action, say some words, think something, or the opposite, fail to take some action, fail to say something, fail to think something. And I am going to experience disappointment. It's going to hurt. It's going to hurt. This is going to happen. So if I track back, right, if I look deeply, if I stop and look deeply, shamatha and vipassana, sometimes people will say that those two words sum up the totality of our practice as mindfulness practitioners. Stopping and deeply looking, shamatha and vipassana. So if I stop and deeply look at my disappointment, I know that it has to come from somewhere. Right? This is the teaching of the Four Noble Truths. The first Noble Truth is dissatisfaction. And the second Noble Truth is that dissatisfaction has a cause. Our suffering does not come from nowhere. It is not completely random, which is very empowering. But things that are not completely random systems that are not completely random can be affected, can be changed. Things that are completely random and chaotic can only be endured. And so if I use these noble truths to look at my disappointment, to look at my dissatisfaction, to look at my dukkha, all the words that are sometimes used in that teaching, I see that it has a cause. It comes from somewhere. And when I look a little bit more deeply, like asking myself, well, what is that cause? Why am I dissatisfied? Why am I disappointed? It's because I had an expectation. No expectation, no disappointment. And so I held an expectation that the person would think, speak, or act in a certain way, and they did not. So stop and deeply look again. Let's go a layer beneath that. Where did my expectation come from? Because just like my disappointment came from somewhere, so my expectation came from somewhere. It didn't fall out of the sky. And my expectation came from my understanding. My understanding. This is the base. This is the base. So let's make up an imaginary scenario where I'm interacting with my coworker, and they do something that I don't agree with. They disappoint me. So then the next step is to acknowledge, like, oh, okay, that means I had some expectation of them. What was that expectation? And I investigate that. Oh, I thought that they would be more responsible than that. I thought that they would be more on time than that, let's say. And then, right, we go stop and deeply look, shamatha and vipassana, to take us another layer deeper. Well, where did that expectation come from? And I might realize, oh, you know what? I don't really understand them. I know that I hold myself to a really high standard with time. I structure my life in such a way that if I have an appointment in the morning, I am planning for it and thinking about it the night before. The way I went to bed last night was designed to make my morning easy to be here timely for this call. But in a lot of ways, that's kind of easy for me. I don't have children. I don't have pets. I live alone. There's like the list goes on and on and on. All of these things that I don't need to commute to this call, so I didn't have to like just drive through snow, and on and on and on. And so it's not that hard for me to hold myself, right, to that expectation, because I have a lot of good causes and conditions that support that. But maybe the other person doesn't, right? And so, right, if I sit down with my coworker and instead of focusing on being right and therefore trying to shame and blame and punish and correct them so that will never happen again, which is how I used to handle situations like that. Oh, you disappointed me? Well, I'm going to make you feel so bad, right? I'm going to shame you and point out how wrong you are and how irresponsible you've been, right? So you never do that again. That's how that's how I was raised, and that's how I used to handle situations like this. But now I'm much more interested in understanding. Because maybe that person, has a sick child or animal or elder parent. Like maybe they have somebody else that they're responsible for who doesn't care that it's 9:55 a.m. Maybe they have like all kinds of extenuating circumstances that I'm not aware of. And so you see, right, as we have been diving in, we land at understanding. Like, because if I understood that about them, like if I knew that my coworker was taking care of an elderly parent, and if you've never taken care for somebody who was very sick or at the end of life, let me tell you, like that job doesn't happen on any calendar. That job does not respect time at all. Things happen when they happen, and then they often need to be addressed in an urgent manner. I've worked a lot with people at end of life. You're not looking at your watch. That's not how that works. And so now, right, if I sit down with this coworker and I get this new information, so that I can understand them better, well, then next time, my expectation is different, right? I'm not going to have that expectation that they're 100% going to be there on time for the meeting, because I know, their current life circumstances don't allow for that consistently. There's the very good chance that they'll be late for some reason. And that's just where they're at right now. And if I have that deeper understanding, right, which promotes that healthier, more reasoned expectation, well, then I am subject to much less disappointment. I am subject to much less disappointment. Just in the way, like, it would be unreasonable of me to send my mom like a brand new piece of technology and expect her to be able to like tear it open, read the instruction manual, and set it up. I understand my mom enough to know that that's not in her wheelhouse. That's not one of her strengths. She has many, many strengths, but that's not one of them. And so if I don't use my understanding of her to create realistic expectations of her, then I am dooming myself to disappointment. I am dooming us to difficulty and disharmony. And so now we go full circle, right, to Thay's teaching that understanding and love are two words that mean the same thing. How, once I've realized like, okay, so I'm upset because I had an expectation that they didn't meet, because the expectation wasn't grounded in deep understanding. Well, how do I get deep understanding? Deep understanding is love. Right? Is love. You know, am I going to deeply understand and commune with somebody if I'm yelling at them? Am I going to deeply understand and get to know somebody if I'm shaming them? Am I going to get to a place of deep, harmonious, mutual understanding with another person if I'm constantly correcting them and always pointing out what they're doing wrong? The list goes on. The answer is no, 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 no. The only chance I have of coming to deep, harmonious understanding, mutual understanding with another person is if we both feel safe and loved. If I'm always coming from a place of love, if I'm always coming back to like, I'm having this conversation for the purpose of understanding so that we can love each other better. I'm speaking right now in this conversation so that I can be understood so that that person can love me more. I'm listening in this conversation so that I can understand and love better. There will still be miscommunications. There will still be disappointments. There will still be hurt feelings. There will still be things that both of you will not and cannot accept, will not and cannot understand. We're not describing a Cinderella story here. The reality of it is that it's a constant practice. Just like no matter how much food I eat today, eventually I'll be hungry again. No matter how much sleep I got last night, eventually I will be tired again today. This is the nature of what we are. No matter how much harmony I can produce, no matter how much love I can bring to bear now in this moment, some disharmony, some hurt is inevitable to arise again. In part because that's just the nature of life. In part because we are not fixed products. We are processes as human beings that are constantly changing. So we could spend 10 years like coming to an agreement like, okay, you know, you clean the kitchen and I clean the bathroom. And, you know, I do that because I really like to have a clean bathroom sink, and having toothpaste on the side of the bathroom sink just disgusts me. And you clean the kitchen because you really hate there being dirty dishes in there. And that could work for 10 years. And then something could change. Something could change. Somebody could get tired of that. Somebody could feel like that was no longer fair. Somebody could hurt their back and be like, I can't get down on my hands and knees and scrub the bathroom floor anymore. We got to change this up. I can't do that job anymore. So that's why I like saying you can have harmony or you can be right, because in harmony is embedded that things are constantly changing, right? Things are constantly changing. Nothing is fixed. Nothing is static. The way we can miss here, you can be happy, right? Or be right. Because when people hear, oh, I'm happy, they want to hear a permanence to it. They want to be like, and now I'm happy. Like, okay, problem solved. But that's not how it is.